All right, wonderful. Thanks everyone for joining us today. This is our November meeting of the Continuous Improvement Advisory Committee. We have a couple of big things on our agenda today. We'll be going over our final report, the 2024-2025 report that goes to the JCT, and then having a lessons learned conversation about what we've learned working through the committee over the past, I think it's 7 or so years, and what we can take forward into the committee in its next iteration. Commissioner Chapman couldn't be here today. She had a personal emergency, so looks like it will just be us working through all of this today. And our first item is actually to take a look through the report. So I can take over sharing. Oops. Right. So I'll move you all over here so I can see you if anyone raises a hand or has a question. We sent this out just yesterday. Sorry we weren't able to get it to you sooner to take a look at, but this should look familiar. Every 2 years, we have a report due to the legislature, and this one captures the events and activities, the recommendations the committee has made, and actions taken on them in 2024 and 2025. So have our report, table of contents, all this fun stuff. Every report to the legislature has to run through, some bureaucratic stuff. Who is on it? Why does the committee exist? So it calls out House Bill 2017, the formation of the committee, links to where our agenda materials can be found, and notes that in the 2025 special session, House Bill 3991 passed, which made these changes to the committee, and that will be in effect starting in January. And we've got some more details at the end of that, at the end of the report. This is, again, a piece we just need to include about the connection to the conditional fuels tax increase report, which is not a thing that has happened since then. It had already happened in the last report. This report filled a role with those increases, but the report remained legislatively mandated and important. So here we are. So this runs through all the meetings that we had in 2024 and 2025, talking about the connections we've discussed to the strategic action plan, the audits that came forward for deeper dive conversations, and conversations about performance measures, project delivery, and accountability and transparency in general. So the KPM part outlines how our different performance measures work, the changes that took place to the DMV KPM and the bicycle pedestrian KPM in 2023 were captured in the last report, but we have a small report out on what that has measured since that time. So that's captured in here. We also then look back at some of the recommendations from 22-23 and steps taken in 24-25 about those. There's quite a bit here about the launch of the Small Business Development Program to improve competition. That was a big topic in 22-23. That group officially launched in April and has done quite a lot of work since its launch, building up small firms to qualify to create a vital pool of firms that can compete now for ODOT projects in a way that they couldn't before. There's also, we pulled out some specific to Eastern Oregon moments because that was also targeted in the 2022-23 conversations as an area where some of that work is difficult to achieve. So there was some targeted effort in that region. And this just reiterates some work done on lower carbon materials based on recommendations from that time as well. The report then moves into our major projects conversations, which have been an ongoing topic for the committee since its inception. Um, so this outlines a number of recommendations made over the course of the past 2 years. Um, and there's quite a bit in here. I did want to point out that we had a lot of discussion about the disadvantaged business enterprise process and becoming a qualified firm. And we wanted to encompass that conversation, capture that here in the recommendations that were made, because we have been working more closely with Business Oregon and COVID. But we captured in here that there was a federal rule published in October that has made a significant change to how that work is being done. But didn't want to lose track of the recommendations and the work that had happened. So it's basically, here's what y'all shared with us. Here are some steps we were taking. Here's kind of an asterisk with the current state. So this outlines steps taken since then. A big piece of that is obviously the work on the capital improvement plan and how we'll continue to do that. The work on quarterly project portfolio reviews, and other pieces along the way. I'll pause too and say just to check in and see if I'm giving an okay amount of detail on this as we walk through. If you've already read it, this is old news, we can stop. If you need more time to look at it before we just wanted to gut check with everybody.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Are you kind of wrapping up your small business DBE, sort of in a summary of here's where we are at this moment, as you recognize the federal change, that there'll kind of be in maybe a different or at least different data as you move forward? How are you making that mark?
So the Small Business Development Program is actually separate from our DBE program, as far as I understand. I believe it's already race neutral and gender neutral. So it's the DBE specific to the federal definitions
Yeah.
that is affected by this change. So the work, I believe, of the Small Business Development Program will continue to roll forward, but it's separate. It's I believe, a different qualification process than the DBE process.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. We had a lot of discussions about transparency and accountability here in the legislature, in the agency, everywhere. It was a big topic this year and all the time. Over the course of time, one of the big projects that ODOT was working on was the launch of the State of the System dashboard, and you all gave some extremely vital feedback to an early iteration of that made it more user-friendly, more comprehensible, talking point friendly, and like for people to understand what they were looking at and be able to talk about. We really appreciated that. This kind of outlines the recommendations made and what we did with that in publishing the official site. So we've got some on there. We talked a little bit about the DMV presented about a recommendation was about expanding options for people dealing with wait times for drop-ins, and they had some staff shortages that were happening kind of alongside the Real ID crush, but the Real ID crush has lessened. But they've been making a lot of strategic steps to create more customer certainty by making some locations appointment only for certain days. Just making some shifts and really monitoring how they're working to see if that customer certainty is created. There's also an ongoing project, I believe, to add an appointment making capability to the lobby queuing kiosks that we have right now, where you can go in and get a number and you can leave if you need to, if you have a really long wait. They're trying to add for some of the kiosks some function there to make an appointment if an appointment is available. There was some discussion about the Public Transportation Division creating an annual report. That has not yet come to fruition, but they did launch a GIS map dashboard of their bike and pedestrian um, projects and their locations and status that it is set to launch before the end of the year. Um, can pause there. Okay. Looking ahead, we outline what House Bill 3991 asks for of this committee going forward. And there's quite a bit of change. It's a monthly meeting, quarterly
I'm
reporting to
sorry,
the
can you
commission.
make the document bigger?
Sure. The PDF is a little
Just trying to figure out how to do it
finicky.
myself.
There we go.
Oh,
That
perfect. Yeah, thanks.
this committee will meet monthly. We'll have these performance measures reports going to the commission and the Joint Committee on Transportation. Um, so in this meeting, it's kind of a chicken egg. This paragraph describes what we're doing today, which is basically our closing meeting for this iteration of the committee. We'll be talking about those lessons learned and gathering advice for the next iteration of the committee, focusing on that monitoring of major projects and how what we've learned as a committee, what you've learned as a committee can help inform next steps going forward. In the new guiding documents, the quarterly reports replace this biennial report. So this is the final of these documents that we'll be producing. And then we have our statement of gratitude for everyone's service, which I would like to also reiterate. Are there any
Don't,
questions about the report
don't,
or next steps?
don't we get a participation trophy or something?
We have stickers, I think.
Could you scroll up?
Sure.
It said something about performance measures. Did the new law put performance measures, specific performance measures, or will you go back in to get the KPIs redeveloped similar, but what did they
I
direct?
believe that portion, and Tova or Kat, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the statute kept the KPM development and review duties of the current committee in the future committee as well, um, even beyond just the major projects related ones.
That's correct. There's also, Sarah, a question from Mayor Cross in the chat about
Oh, I
but
cannot
I
see the
think
chat.
Mayor Cross, you asked you made it asked if for confirmation this will be the last meeting for you or any other elected officials. We will, I think the answer is yes, and we will also talk more about what the new the CIAC reset looks like in the next agenda item.
Yes. Thanks for calling that out. I have like 5 windows open and
Oh,
one of them is not the chat. So
I
I can't even find where to put that up on my screen with this open. So
totally
thank you.
understand.
All right. How are we comfortable with the content of the report? Any gaps you've noticed or edits? It's, I hope, fairly straightforward and captures what we've been talking about over the course of the past 2 years. All right.
I'm looking at, I, it's called the activities and recommendations. Are the recommendations clearly denoted?
There,
Are feels more like we're reporting? Oh, I see.
the
There it is.
yeah, I will say after I feel like once the train was too far down the tracks, it occurred to me that the recommendations and the actions are fairly separated from each other. But they are in each section, the recommendations are called out first, and then the actions are in the next section. All right. In that case, I will stop sharing. If you have a chance to look at it, and have any questions or concerns over the next few days, let me know. It will be going to the OTC on the consent calendar in December. All right, thank you.
So I think we may have an audio issue with Kat. So can we do like a little technology check for a minute? Kat, can you go off mute and can we see if we can hear you? I know your camera's not working, so we won't be able to see you. Okay, if you're talking right now, we cannot hear you. Hopefully, maybe try calling in from your phone. I think that we could do a little bit of like side messaging to see if I can figure out, Kat and I can troubleshoot, and give me a second.
No worries, Tova. We can see what we can do.
Give us a minute or two, and I'm not ready to accept defeat yet.
No worries at all. We can see if we can get all tech issues. If there's anything I can do, please let me know. This is Michaela talking.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, just so you know, on our end, at least for me, when I'm looking at participants, it does look like you are unmuted. However, we cannot hear you. If there is a separate device you could join in on, just with audio purposes, we could try that.
Yeah, that would work because we can tag team.
Yes. Okay, looks like, let's see.
Yeah, it looks like another phone number joined. So, aha.
Kat, is that you?
Maybe.
Maybe you're muted. At 866.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let me turn off my computer audio. Thank you, everybody. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Okay. Just a sec. Okay. Does that work, everybody?
Yes.
Okay, great. I apologize. I was not anticipating this being an issue. Do you want me to kick this off,
Yeah.
Tova?
Go ahead.
Okay. Perfect. So good afternoon. My name is Kat Silva. I did anticipate on being on video, but I am happy to be here and discussing kind of next steps with the next iteration of the committee. Tova and I will kind of run through changes or modifications that have been made by the special session in House Bill 3991. And then we will be asking the existing committee members for insights and some discussion around what we can take as an agency and bring into the next iteration to help with its effectiveness in meeting its new charge. Next slide, please. Oops. Looks like we're in. Next slide. There we go. So as many of you know, there was a heavy focus in the 2025 legislative session and the special session this fall regarding agency accountability and oversight and agency performance, and that manifested into several accountability measures being codified in House Bill 3991, one of which was modifications to this advisory committee, which was originally established by House Bill 2017. And so the statutory requirements modified the scope and membership, and the oversight this committee and the commission, as well as the legislature, will provide related to major projects defined as projects over 250 million. Next slide, please. And so one of the primary ways that that the legislation changed the CIAC was regarding its membership. And so House Bill 2017, as you may recall, was not very prescriptive regarding membership, leaving a lot of room for discretion. I think the language was that it required members of the commission, employees of ODOT, and transportation stakeholders. House Bill 3991 modified that language regarding membership to focus on specific roles, skill sets, and expertise of CIAC members going forward. There will still be around 6 to 7 members we're anticipating, and so it's not really an expansion to a large membership. It's more focused on specific individuals. So just as a refresher, the House Bill is requiring that at least 2 commission members preside over the committee, the director of the agency, and ODOT's chief engineer, as well as at least 1 subject matter expert in delivering major projects and at least 1 subject matter expert in the federal NEPA process. Again, these changes most notably focus on bringing in expertise related to major projects and project delivery. Next slide, please.
So at this time, my name is Tova Pels, and I've been participated in CIC before. My role at ODOT is statewide capital program engineer, and right now I'm also the interim chief engineer. And so I am wearing a few hats, and one part of that is I think regardless of what hat I'm wearing, like I will have a role and like participation in CIAC immediately as chief engineer, and ultimately probably bringing presentations to the group. But Kat Silva, who's just presenting, is also going to be supporting CIAC moving forward as well. And so she and I have been working together along with Sarah on this reset and developing materials and an approach. And we just had the opportunity to share this with the commission last week, and also gave a little bit of an overview to the legislature's Joint Transportation Oversight Committee last night on legislative days. So, well, just a little, like some additional context. As we think through our approach to CIAC moving forward, we really want to set the scope of the reset to meet the statutory requirements, but also to be a resource to provide input and insight in the delivery of our most complex projects. The primary change in statute and the legislative intent behind that change is that the committee will serve as a mechanism to provide more robust project delivery oversight. And the agency is taking this seriously, and very seriously, and proposes an even broader scope of oversight to enable the committee and the commission to have deeper insight into the work being done to improve our project delivery work and the progress of projects in both development and construction that have the potential to be $50 million or more. So while statutory requirement is $250 million, that's actually only a handful of our projects. We're expanding it down to be more inclusive and to have more engagement from a broader cross section of the agency and agency project delivery. The CIAC is required to meet at least once a month, and in addition to reporting quarterly on changes to scope, schedule, and budget of these major projects, the CIAC will also report to both the OTC and then to the legislature on status of performance measures, which we talked about previously in Sarah's presentation, and quarterly on ways that ODOT and the OTC can execute our responsibilities more efficiently. We also will engage with the committee on our work to implement recommendations stemming from the managerial review that was completed by the legislature last May. That work was primarily focused on project delivery and resulted in over 30 recommendations to the agency, the majority of which related to project delivery specifically. Several of the recommendations that were encompassed, we already have work underway, and as a result of the strategic review that was completed by the agency the previous year in spring of 2024. So that includes the establishment of the capital investment plan, the CIP, and other project delivery improvement efforts. For example, so this body of work ties completely to how the agency is approaching project development, cost estimating, risk management, and project funding moving forward. Next slide, please. So to set up the new format and direction, we're working on a number of items to get the CIAC in motion in 2026. That includes a new charter for the committee that captures all the new charge, legislative intent, statutory requirements, and deliverables. An annual work plan for the committee that to meet all the reporting requirements. So this will include the schedule to bring reports and updates to the CIAC in order to prepare them for the commission and then the legislature. So right now we're working backwards from the newly approved 2026 OTC calendar, which was approved last week, to fill in the CIAC calendar and the associated agenda items and all the associated material templates. So we'll be developing, or we are actually, I should say, developing reporting templates for project reporting. And we expect that it'll probably take a couple of iterations with the CIAC and then with the commission and then with the legislature to nail down the right level of detail for those reports in order to effectively cover project delivery, health, scope, schedule, budget, as well as risk and opportunity for those projects. These reports are going to cover both projects in development that are pre-funding in some cases, projects in design and projects in construction. So a broad scope of work. I think that our presentation to the legislative joint oversight committee on transportation last night was a good example of that. It was a little bit of testing the waters in that regard. And then we really aim to just have an ongoing dialogue through the CIAC and then through the commission and then through the legislature about oversight and performance and delivering our whole portfolio. Next slide.
Did you get good feedback from the legislative interaction? Like they felt like you got it?
Yes, I think that we got great questions last night and good feedback about I think that the dynamic between the agency and the legislature in thinking about funding strategy and implications of funding on our how we manage our system and how we deliver projects in the long run. And I think that there's a lot of interest in having more conversation about individual projects and the priority of projects and financial strategy around projects, which is great. That's, I think, exactly what we want. I think Travis probably has other thoughts and feelings about that as well. So you look like you have another comment or question though. No, good. Okay. Kat, back to you.
Yep. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Oh, there you go. Perfect. So this gives kind of an overview of as we look forward to the next few months and into the first half of next year, our plans for implementation. As I think Sarah mentioned, this will be the final meeting of this committee, and as we will be working with the OTC, I believe that Chair Brown identified Vice Chair Byer and Commissioner Chapman to lead the charge from the CIA or from the commission perspective on chairing the committee going forward. And so we will be working with them to identify potential members to fill these roles and excuse me, bringing that back to the commission at the December meeting. Excuse me. We will be looking to bring back the first quarterly report to the CIAC for review at their February meeting, and then bringing that to the OTC and to the JCT in March. And as Tova mentioned, we do anticipate this to be an iterative process. We did get good feedback on some of the preliminary reporting we're doing on the major projects and the information that we've been providing to both the commission and to the legislature. But we will be open to feedback and refining that information and those reports moving forward to ensure that we're kind of meeting that legislative intent and the drive for further accountability with regard to delivering major projects. And so I think in terms of implementation for the bill's sake, we will be thinking through July of next year and trying to really nail down and hone the specifics of that report. That's all I have. Question?
You must know how many projects you have that fit within that 250 million review. Isn't that how they called it? Projects over 250 had to be included in some kind of review.
Correct.
Do you know how many?
Yeah, we're including projects that are over 50 million. I think there's only 2 or 3 projects right now that hit that $250 million mark. Tova, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But we reported, I believe, on around 10 projects. It's a $50 million.
Okay.
I think we have 5 projects, including projects that are in like planning unfunded stages that hit the $250 million threshold. So, but a couple of those are only have like planning level funding at this point. So they're farther out in terms of delivery. Okay, that is our presentation on the reset of CIAC. I think we're going to pivot to some like reflection on. Oh, Ted, sorry, you have a question. You're on mute though.
Sorry. If we're going to look at 50 million and above projects, that's fine. It'll be just a few projects to really look at. Is ODOT planning to take the lessons from those projects that we can learn and do better by to the smaller projects? Is that your idea?
Yes. Absolutely. I think that, I mean, we're all, and you know, we're already doing that. I think that's a big part of the work that we're doing as we establish like the CI, like the capital investment plan and the processes around it, are to have certainly like share the learning of the bigger projects with the smaller projects, and frankly, vice versa.
Well, yeah, because I think a $30 million job or a $25 million job has the same issues and problems that a $50 million job. And if we can get lessons learned and talk about how do we do things better to save the state and the taxpayer money, it'll go throughout the whole gamut of projects that are out there.
Agreed. I think that we're looking at having tools, especially around, like particularly around cost estimating, cost risk analysis that exist for like projects from the smallest projects to the largest projects, but are like more complex tools and expectations depending on the complexity of the project. But having that feedback loop, I think for all scales is pretty important, especially because I think those biggest the biggest of our projects are often like really combinations of a whole bunch of small projects. I think.
That's exactly right. That's
I-
really the whole point of it.
Yep,
And there's
absolutely.
a lot to learn in how to correct operations to make things go smoother, faster, better.
Absolutely.
If we could get them down and get them moving, I think it would help.
Agreed. Thank you. I think if folks are comfortable, we can shift to the next agenda item, which is to do some reflecting on lessons learned from all the work that y'all have done. And our intention is to really focus on the lessons that can carry over to the new CIAC. So it won't be like the whole gamut of lessons learned, but really looking at the work that y'all have done as CIC and how that can apply to the next iteration, and do a little bit of brainstorming around that. So I think what we're gonna have a shared screen and a virtual whiteboard that we're all going to be able to contribute to. That's the intention, at least. So folks can put some thoughts on it. So we're using the mural tool, and I think the intention is to share the link with everyone so folks can jump in and put
actually, I think Sarah's gonna take suggestions from the discussion and type them in as we go
okay.
along.
That's great. That works too. That's maybe easier technology wise. So
Yep.
Kat, do you have access to it on your computer? I was going to get everything zoomed in so people can see what we're doing, but I can also do the typing if you're not available
I
to do
can
that piece. Okay, cool.
Yep,
We'll divide and conquer.
yes.
great. So I think what we want to spend some time on is what has worked well in this CIC. So to date, where can the agency improve on? When it comes to oversight, what should the agency focus on to help the CIC? And then let's scroll over. Oh, recommendations on, okay, prep and materials that will help to help future CIC, and then sort of like a miscellaneous catch-all of other items. Sarah, were you Sarah and Kat, were you thinking we'd go question by question, or is it do we want to do a free for all?
I think it would be great if we could go question by question,
Okay.
capture some initial thoughts, and then we can move back to, or we can change focus to the next question. And we're always open to going back or opening it back up once we get through the questions. But I think it would be nice to spend a few minutes on each so that we can make sure that we're deliberate in capturing feedback from the committee.
Great. And we have about 30 minutes, I think, on the calendar, like on the clock right now to spend on this, which I think should work out all right.
So I think we wanted to start off on the most positive note we possibly could, and hear from you all on anything that you feel that has worked well in your experience working with the agency and your existing charge that you also think we should continue, and then we can move on to what we can improve on. And please feel free to jump in. I mean, Sarah, do you want me to just go ahead and kind of call on people?
Sure.
Okay, perfect.
Rod was first.
Yep. Oh, I think you're muted.
Sorry.
I very much relate to this issue. Yeah, if
Put
you
it
want
in
to
the
type
chat.
it into, so capture it there.
Shall I
Alrighty,
jump
go ahead.
in while he's
Yep.
typing? I would say what's been really helpful are the right amount or balance of presentation and then committee conversation. We usually have plenty of time to talk through the issues or ask questions, etc. So that's good. I think the materials have been well understood. I think we hit our stride at around year 3 of this committee. I think we struggled in the beginning. I know we did. I appreciate too that the right staff seem to be on the calls, that even if they're not presenting, can take back recommendations or hear the conversation to help them understand some of this comments or where we're coming from. I've learned a lot from the other committee members. So I'll stop there.
I agree. I think we've brought on some really good projects to look at and talk about and discuss. I guess it may go into the next one to improve on. We've had questions of presenters that they haven't been able to answer and promised to get back to us and never have. And I've always kind of felt like somebody didn't want to answer those questions, so they just put it off and we never heard from them. But I think when we're discussing a project or a problem and we ask the questions they can't answer, somebody needs to come back, bring it back to us, and get the discussion going again to see if we can't really help more. The other thing I'll say, I don't know if I can't hear anybody talking. So I think the other thing that has helped is getting information out early enough that we have time to review it, read it, and digest it before the meeting really helps. If we get something at the last minute, we're all busy and sometimes you just don't have the time to really get into it before the meeting. So early information on what we're going to cover helps tremendously.
I don't know if we've done this well, but I think it's important in the green box to make sure we leave, or the committee leaves each meeting with action strategy of things that have to happen, either the agency and who's going to do what. And then at the beginning of the next meeting, the follow-up of here's what we heard and here's what we did about it. And kind of touches maybe with what Ted mentioned on follow-up. I sometimes don't know when we leave a meeting whether we've given enough advice or reviewed what we needed to review to give you a recommendation. So I think just being really intentional about that is good.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thanks. One other thing I wanted to add that has worked well, Ted hit on a lot of them. I think that one of the things that, and I know that I know I'm not going to be here going forward, but a lot of our legislators still don't get what y'all do. Okay, I'll be perfectly blunt. Okay, when I go in and talk to legislators about ODOT projects, a lot of them, their eyes glaze over. And being able to show them this is why they've chosen this project, this is why this project was successful, this is why this is working, has opened a lot of doors to, because you guys have all heard me over the years. To me, it's about maintenance. It's about making things go from being possible danger zones to being projects that'll last for 30, 35 years, hopefully, right? A lot of our legislators don't get it. I'll be blunt. They just they're gone. And one of the things that I think that this committee has allowed me to be able to do is to take those facts, listen to you all, and digest them and put them into ways that they grasp. Because there's a lot of things they got to try and quote master, and engineering on road projects is probably not high on their list. Um, I saw that. And so if whatever comes out of this next iteration, if they can find a way to get it down to where this is why we have to do this project, that it's not just about, quote, looking good in their community, but it's about saving lives. It's about preserving access. It's about all those things. Then ODOT can get farther down the road than being challenged every time it says something in front of the legislature. And I would like us to get to a point where people understand, respect, and know that ODOT's doing the very best job they can with what they have. Because I think there are. I think you all are. I really do. Unfortunately, you've run into so many roadblocks over the last 5 years that it's become, you're swimming uphill. And we got to find a way to level the playing field a little bit. And I think part of that is making sure the legislature, all of them, understand just what you're trying to do. There, I've said my piece.
I think you can accomplish a lot of that along project reporting. And when you do quarterly reporting or whatever they require, keep in front of whoever's reviewing a project that what the benefits of the project are, what the status is, on time, on budget, all of those kinds of things that can help them follow the project along in its delivery phase. So how you set that up, I think, will be really critical, but can accomplish what Mayor said. Or help at least. And then you market it. I hate to say it, especially market it in those communities that the project is in.
I think one
I'm
of the
paraphrasing.
things, I'm sorry.
I'm paraphrasing a lot of what I'm hearing here. So just feel free to correct anything that you're saying that I may capture incorrectly, please. Sorry to have interrupted you, Mr. Osmond.
Yeah, one of the things I've seen is when we've had project managers report on their project is they're pretty much sugarcoating the job, telling us what they think we want to hear. And what we want to hear is what's gone well, what hasn't gone well, and how can we help with what hasn't gone well. And I think it would be great if we could get the contractor on some of those projects to report also what went well, what didn't go well. And so you hear both sides of the story, and then you know what you have to work on to make it better.
Definitely agree with Ted on that one. Because one of the things that I've noticed with our projects that haven't gone especially great is the groundwork leading up to the project was incomplete in some areas. And that has led to, for lack of a better word, crappy press, which in turn leads to public crappy opinion, which in turn leads to legislators not knowing what to do.
I'm not sure what heading this goes under, but what's to the right? There was recommendations for on meeting materials. I think it's been said, but getting them early enough for the committee to be able to review the agenda and materials. So I'd say at least a week in advance, if possible. But under the what should the agency focus on to be successful, I guess that is. With a new charge or a modified charge, I would recommend that there be a agreed upon, you mentioned charter, but a scope of work or work plan, and then keep a calendar. I like that calendar you had in the last presentation, a calendar that kind of marches across the year, but all of these tasks that the committee is charged with, they see themselves in which month they're meeting, and so that they know they're accomplishing each of the tasks the legislature put in front of them. And that works so well on projects in general. But this is one where it could always be a part of the meeting materials. We are here, and this is what we're reviewing this time. And next month, we're going to be working on this other agenda item for clarity.
Other lessons learned. Committee will still be charged with, reviewing KPMs, and we're also going to be, bringing forward some internal metrics related to project delivery. Are there any lessons learned or advice that you would like to pass on around those actions?
I'm not sure what you have planned for the reporting out on implementation of the reviews that you've had, but the way that Paul Mather had, when he came back and helped for that period of time, and had that very clear process and spreadsheet of where everything was, I thought that was really useful to follow along. And so if there's a new list of things that you're incorporating into the work, it would be nice if there was some method of spreadsheet or however, keeping track over time where the agency is on implementation, and then showing your products or your changes as you go along in your reporting. Then you kind of know when you're there. We've covered every item the legislature wanted to focus us on. And I think keeping really good track of that is a good idea. And in a visible way for the commission, legislators, the public, whoever cares, local agencies.
One item I have that I'd love to see get on the board for this committee to look at is hiring practices and retaining staff for ODOT. I think we could give a view from outside of things that could be changed. I know ODOT has a real problem in hiring engineers and professionals coming in because they just can't pay the rate that's out there on the private side. And just how do we get that to be in a place where they could attract more talent and keep talent within the agency? ODOT spends tremendous amount of money on consultants on projects, and they pay a real premium for it. So I don't know if that's a recommendation or something I just really believe they ought to look at. We could talk about.
I can I double reiterate what Ted just said. My sister-in-law just retired from 30 plus years in ODOT. And that has been one of the things that she talked about almost every time we've ever gotten together, was without the in-house people, it costs so much to go out and get, consultants to do the work that probably should be done in-house. That in the long run, it ends up costing way more money to the taxpayers than if we were able to find a way to get them in-house. And so I'm in double, triple agreement with Ted. I think that would be money very well spent And I'm sure, and I mean this honestly, I'm sure that we could show just with simple spreadsheets that it would be cheaper in the long run to bring them in-house than it is to continually hire consultants.
And maybe you should do your own construction too. I'm kidding.
Well, I think there's a place for consultants in ODOT, and I think there's a place for them to be able to hire people and be able to bring them in that they really need.
Oh, absolutely. A
Yeah.
stable staff is what helps be successful.
Would it be helpful to recap kind of what we've heard? I think what we've heard so far, that what has worked well is the kind of balance of presentation and conversation, that materials have been relatively easy to digest, and that we've had the right staff in the room to help with the presentations and fielding questions, and kind of having some of the more complex things translated to plain English. And that's what we've captured or what's worked well. What we can improve on is an experience of failure for us to follow through with our follow-up that we have agreed upon. So, so getting to a feedback loop that's effective, sending out materials earlier, identifying clear action items that can be addressed or that are assigned and then addressed at the next meeting, and that we're intentional about what advice and direction is being sought and how then it is used or implemented by the agency. And those are areas where we can improve. What the agency should focus on in order to help the CIC meet its oversight charge is to help provide a line of sight for legislators and elected officials on the why behind specific projects, to make sure the legislature understands and that we develop materials that are easily understandable, especially around complex projects, to keep the benefits and the story of projects front and center, and to kind of market them, so to speak, to keep the momentum, to be transparent about what has gone well and also what is not going well, and to potentially bring in contractors and others to aid in transparency around project progress. In terms of recommendations around meeting materials and prep that would help the CIC with the charge, the one thing that we heard was, bringing materials at least a week in advance, so that they've got committee members have time to review and digest those materials in advance of the discussion at the meeting. And then other kind of miscellaneous lessons learned is around some of the broader scope of the committee, creating or delineating a clear kind of process or progress status reporting that ties all the work together, so that we know where things are at any given time and how those things are wrapping up, or what progress is being made, and what we've accomplished over time. And then also a request that that the committee have an opportunity to engage with the agency around our hiring and practices and employee/talent retention at ODOT, and as well as our outsourcing practices, so our consultant engagement practices. And so that's what we've heard so far. And if there are other things now kind of across the board that the committee members would like to provide, we would love to hear it. But those are all great.
Here's something that's not so much for this committee, but for ODOT in general. When we have a major project, say, I'll just pick the big one, the bridge, there needs to be more, for lack of a better word, community outreach done before you get started, because the communities know what the hot button issues are. The communities know what for lack of a better word, political pitfalls will be, so that we don't get started down a road and then all of a sudden have, we'll just say, a untimely large-scale explosion occur that ends up causing not just delays, but monetary delays to the point where prices go through the roof and we don't see a way to get it done. And I think we're going to see that more and more as time goes on. And you know, by the time a project gets to this committee, it's either dead or it's done. At least the way we've been doing it. Okay. Maybe with the new iteration, things will be seen earlier and see things quicker, I hope. But I hate to break this to people, but the landscape has changed over the last 20 years a lot. And people seem to enjoy, and you know, for lack of a better word, going and getting an attorney, and attorneys seem to enjoy it. Instead of trying to find solutions, people want to find a problem and they just want to yell about a problem. And I hope this committee and ODOT going forward can find ways to foresee not just the problems, but some solutions that can help people be willing to get some of these things done. Because unless we put gates up at, at everything coming into the state, we're going to continue to grow. And I don't see too much of an end in sight with that. We are still a desirable place for people to live and for people to come visit. And we need to try and get ahead of it instead of continually playing catch up. I don't envy any of you working for the agency with your task over the next 10 years or so. I really hope that we can get the contentiousness level dropped so that we can move forward.
Related to that, I had a question I wanted to ask the non-ODOT members of the committee. I've been supporting the committee since February of 24. I've learned an intense amount about project delivery and the work that we do here at a level where I thought I decently understood and realized how much there was going on that I was not aware of. For me, looking at the scope of current CIAC versus future CIAC, one of the big opportunities is that weighing in early instead of coming in to look at it when it's over. And wondered if you had any specific recommendations for future iteration of the committee on what sorts of things to be looking at when you're having a more iterative and during the process approach report out.
I agree with you. I think if we got into them early, just what Rod was talking about, we see it when it's all over, and it's kind of a catch up at that point. But if we were into it earlier and we were hearing about the project, what's going well, what's not going well, that's where the expertise in the committee could possibly help with solutions. So one of the things, participation from outside brings a whole lot of people in with demands. You look at the Rose Quarter project and the committees that have been formed to be transparent, and those committees have come back and they've demanded certain things and wanted certain things. And that's okay, but I think we need somebody standing there saying, fine, if we do that, here's the price tag for it. So if we want to add that, put that in, do that, before you demand it and say, we got to do it, here's what the price tag is, how do we pay for it? And let people know what those costs are. Because we tend to try to please everybody, and we watched a project go from 750 million to almost $2 billion on demand of, we want to change this, we want to do that, we want to build a building over the freeway that ODOT will never build. But it's pleasing everybody that I think is running the cost of these projects sky high. And if we managed it better and said, understand, we've estimated here's the cost, is it really worth it? We'd have a better idea of people understanding where those costs are coming from and how and why.
Well said, Ted. Compromise has to start being part of our language again. We've got to find a way to get compromise back into how we do things. You know, if you've got 15 things that people want, well, we can't afford 15 things. So what are the, you know, what do we do? What are our trade-offs? And this committee could help do that. You know, the more information we have up front going into things, the more information we have as we get into things, the more things can be adjusted to compromise and adapt to not just what money we have, but what does the public want?
Tova, is there anything that you want to add here or speak to?
I've been appreciating listening to the conversation, all the comments and feedback, because it's really helpful. And it's also like the vast majority of it is very aligned to like the conversations we've been having about where the reset CIC is going to go and what kinds of like tools and resources we need moving forward. So I've appreciated the listening and capturing of all the information. I think that we're probably I think that the template we're working on for reporting is going to capture a lot of these things. I also think that the approach we're taking to quarterly reporting is going to address like a lot of the comments and questions about projects in development and risks and opportunities. So which is great. That's that I think that's confirming some of what we've been discussing. I think there's folks feel like we've shared all the information that you're thinking of right now. I think we can shift gears to the next agenda item. But I would also say that if you have other thoughts that come to you as like after today, please, we would still appreciate them, and you're welcome to share them. And I think we can do that by email pretty readily and continue to include it. And what I'd like to be able to do is take this information and share it with the reset CIAC in January to like have a little bit of a handoff and say, here's what the last CIAC members had to say and the feedback they provided, and here's how we're trying to address that in our reset. We do definitely have more guidance, I think, in terms of purpose and outcome for this reset than we had for the original CIAC. So all the years of learning. Is Travis online for our last?
No, I think he asked me to cover it.
Okay.
So I was going to cover the final piece. So, hey, everybody, good to see it. I've been quiet here, just listening to the good points that have been raised. I appreciate it. I think y'all know me, but Amanda Peace, I'm the division administrator for policy data and analysis. So I don't know that we need to share the PowerPoint there, but just wanted to take the time to kind of reflect back on things. And I think to Tova's last point, I think where the CIAC has had a hard time is it was a pretty amorphous charge, other than look at performance measures, but like help the agency with accountability, help give good advice. And I think that created a challenge in even who do we pick for expertise? You can see here on this call between having a former DOT director, a local jurisdiction elected official, somebody from the contracting industry, right? It's a good diversity of people that have different perspectives to bring to the table. We've seen a lot of kind of changeover of membership over time. We had kind of advocacy interests at some points. We've had different folks contributing to the process. So I think in a very amorphous charge, it's been helpful to just kind of see what sticks and what doesn't. Thank you for bearing with us as we've experimented with that, because I feel like some agenda items have gone well, I think to Paula's point, like 3 years in, we're kind of hitting our stride, but that's not a great record, right? So we've learned over that time period what didn't work, what wasn't helpful when we're just really sharing information versus really trying to get the feedback. And I think the feedback is the key in a group like this, and appreciate the thoughts you've given to Tova and Kat as they like reform this group to make sure it's focused on things. I do think that the clarity and the direction is helpful for the next iteration of the CIC, but really the lessons learned here and your expertise, it's been valued. I just really want to, as a department, thank you for your time. I know our commission thanks you for your time, and we'll see what the next iteration holds. So just appreciate that. Words of thanks to y'all. I think with that, Sarah, are we done? I mean, is that the thing? Should we do, I don't know, claps? I don't know what the right ending piece is.
The wave.
The wave. Okay, ready? Paula, starting the wave. Paula, then Mayor Cross, and Ted.
Hey,
here we go.
wait a minute. I saw Ted smile. And I think it's only the second time I've seen Ted smile in all this time.
Because this is ending. That's why. No, again,
Thanks for everything you
your
guys
time.
have done. It's been great.
Yeah.
It's been an honor and a pleasure to work with y'all. I had a good working knowledge from a politician's side about what you do, but learning more of the ins and outs and the nuts and bolts have helped me to be able to talk to people about it. And, because sometimes, and I'll just say it, some of the regional directors are not, how should we say this, the best spoken people. And so being able to take what they've said and put it in a way that people understand has been very helpful. And I hope that, going forward, that ODOT will continue to get better and better. I really do, because we need it. I mean, there's no getting around it. It's vital to this state's growth. It's vital to this state's safety, period, end of sentence. And Ted, I really enjoyed, I know it's going to sound strange, but I really enjoyed you, because I didn't understand a lot of the hiring things and the ins and outs about how that portion of the construction industry, especially with ODOT, worked. And it was good to hear your explanations and learn what that really meant. So I really appreciate all of that. Paula, thank you for everything. Amanda, thanks again. Sarah, Tova, all of you. It's been, I won't say it's always been my favorite meeting, but it's been one of my favorite meetings because I've learned something every time. I haven't been bored spitless for 2 hours like some other state meetings I've been in. So thank you very much.
We'll take it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate it, everybody. Everybody take care.
Thank you.
Bye.